Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 4 of the Sling'N podcast. I'm TJ.
And I'm Kent.
And joining us tonight is Tatiana Whitlock.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming on, Tatiana. We're happy to have you. So, we like to start off each of these shows with a rough introduction for our guests. So, Tatiana, those of us that are a little bit more involved in the industry, or anybody that can do a mild Google search will find that you're a firearms instructor, a very well-respected firearms instructor from Maine, very involved in the industry, very involved with women's organizations or getting women out on the range and catering to that crowd. But we like to know, we like to ask our guests the question, who the hell are you? With respect to off the range, out from behind the gun, aside from this, pistol packing badass instructor that you are, tell folks at home who you are and introduce yourself, please.
Sure. So the most important thing in my world is I'm a mom of two. I have two amazing kick-ass kids. They are 9 and 10 years old, and they are absolutely the most exciting part of my life. We're Italian, so we live in a multi-generational household. So I have my amazing parents who live with us now. And being Italian, I eat like royalty. My mother has full control over the kitchen, and it is the most incredible experience. And it's amazing. I'm not 800 pounds, but thank you, Mom. And I will never cook another day in my life so long as she is in my house. So that's another wonderful part of our existence. But my background is actually in fine art. So I have a degree from Rhode Island School of Design. For folks who haven't done that deep of a Google search, that's always one of those curious things to add to the conversation. But I grew up in a family of artists, musicians, and engineers, and we're still artists, musicians, and engineers. I am the family black sheep that left the fold of black sheep to join the world of firearms. So that's always an interesting family conversation at get-togethers. And they're all looking at me like, oh, okay, you jumped way off reservation. But we love you and what's going on with the bang stuff, right? In addition to all of that, it's being on the coast of Maine affords a lot of amazing opportunities to be outside. So I love to hunt. I love to fish. Just started freshwater fishing over the past couple of years, largely with my brother, who's an avid bass fisherman. So that's been a lot of fun. And I love bear hunting. I'm huge into bear hunting. Every chance I can get to do it, I do. Been on a couple hunts. I'm hoping to get into a couple of more. That's just probably the most meditative and peaceful hunt. Whether or not you see a bear, you see everything else because they all come to hang out at the bait site. So that's one of my other passions of things that I love. And I just started getting back into not necessarily crafting, but lapidary or stone carving work and jeweling again, which I haven't done in over, I'm going to date myself here, but 2 decades. So diving back into that and making things and crafting things and sculpting things, that's been how I'm spending the little bit of free time that I can carve out.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's quite the resume, Ken. I think you and I need to reevaluate our life choices, bro.
Yeah, although I can connect with you, having lived in Vermont on the Maine bear hunting and the New Brunswick, Canada bear hunting. I had one of the awesomest and most terrible hunts of my life in New Brunswick. Doing bear hunting is hilarious when it goes wrong and great when it goes right. So we could talk nonsense about bear hunting all night and trade stories. You've harvested a bear, I assume, at least one? You have.
Yep. I've got a nice bear blankie
Awesome.
On my bed, and I've got another nice one over there draped on the office couch. That's always a nice conversation starter when it's like hanging over.
So this is a question I did not know I would get to ask you, but since I do, what is your favorite bear recipe?
A bear bourguignon. When I went through trying to figure out what to do with this meat that I had, and I had a ton of it, I tried every recipe people gave me, which was basically American food with bear superimposed. It was horrible. I was like, no wonder no one wants to eat this. This is atrocious. So I went back to my roots and the French culture and French cuisine. I was like, these people know how to deal with duck and lamb and all kinds of funky stuff. So let's see what they've got to offer. So I transformed a traditional old school bourguignon recipe and introduced it with the bear. And having prepared the bear meat myself, there was no white, there's no fats, no any of the white contents. It was just beautiful. And it was superb. So I would have to say that is probably one of my favorites.
Very cool. I'm going to turn you on to something. Look up a guy, if you don't know already, named Steven Rinella.
Okay.
If you haven't heard of him, he does wild hunting and game cookbooks.
Mm-hmm.
He also runs a great podcast called Meat Eater and a show called Meat Eater. And my favorite bear recipe is in one of his books.
Excellent.
Which is basically rendered down bear fat candy. It's amazing.
Ooh.
Oh my God. Anyway, like I said, we go on about bears. Yeah, but shout out Steven Rinella. If you're looking for somebody to sponsor, hit us up, because you're already famous on your podcast. But if you needed more help, shout out Steven Rinella. Anyway, bear hunting in Maine. See, I don't even want to talk guns anymore. I just want to talk bear hunting in Maine. Screw this. So, Tatiana, it would be real easy to take you down the path of talk all about women shooting, which we will do because you get to champion that cause and not many other people do, and we respect that. But I want to ask you some questions that I hope you maybe don't get asked quite as often.
Sounds good.
So let's talk a little bit about your specific background as a shooter, not a female shooter, not the girl with the gun or a girl and a gun, just your respective upbringing in shooting sports and where it started for you.
Certainly. So my first experience with firearms was, my son is 9, so 8 years ago. And I was prompted by my now ex-husband to, after having 2 kids back to back, to go find something that could be for me, a hobby, something that could be outside of the house that was just mine. And it was a fantastic life moment where I was like, wow, I just got a blank check here. What am I going to do with this? I had a laundry list of things that I could have done, but I wanted something that wasn't within my life experience wheelhouse, or to develop upon something. So long story short, I wanted to recreate a duck hunting experience that I had with my dad and my brothers when I was a young teenager, which was really my only experience with firearms, period. And they loaded everything. I just sat there in the duck blind and, wasted some ducks and we ate them. It wasn't about the guns at all. It was about that frozen peanut butter and jelly sandwich, 3 a.m. in the marsh, freezing with my dad and my brothers. So in order to achieve that, I needed to not go as the rookie. So I signed up for an NRA Women on Target clinic. And that was my first 8-hour class. Was at a range in the middle of nowhere, Maine, where, you hear banjo music while you're driving down the ungraded dirt road kind of a place, you're questioning all your life choices about what am I doing here? And you show up with 25 other women who look exactly the same pale shaded green as you. And everyone's asking themselves, what are we doing here? And we all had the most incredible time. The people were amazing. And it set me on a course to want to learn more. So I maxed out what Maine had to offer fairly quickly with NRA programs, because that's where most of us begin, not being a law enforcement or military family. I had no one to tap into within my sphere of knowledge for what comes next. All of the service members in my family have passed away in that generation of my grandparents. So, I was looking to my local range to say, where do I go from here? And they were amazing. I went through all of the NRA programs that were there. I did hunter safety there. And they prompted me, that the president of the club, Steve Rand of the North Berwick Rod and Gun Club in North Berwick, Maine, he was like, I'm going to push you out of the nest. You're either going to jump out or I'm going to kick you out of the nest. And we want you to come back, but go do something. So I had some opportunities to learn from a cool kid, kind of a local outfit that was doing more operator level stuff, from folks who just come back from overseas. And I grew up in martial arts. So I loved that, at the athleticism of those types of classes, and that, never having experienced them before, I didn't know what was right, what was wrong, what was trendy. I just knew that running and gunning was really fun. And I couldn't get enough of it. Like, let's do more of all of that. Shotgun, sure, give me one. When carbines, I didn't have one. My instructor was like, here's my war hammer. It was like 12 pounds on a single point sling, and I couldn't feel my arm. It was just, kind of silly in hindsight, but an incredible first, let's just dive in. 4-day classes, why not? And I became really hooked on the concepts, and I was really interested in, once I realized what I didn't know, asking questions. And when the local community stopped being able to really answer those questions, that's when they were like, just go. Just find something and just go. So again, long story short, I ended up at my very first SHOT Show and had an opportunity to meet some incredible people and had some amazing conversations with some incredible minds that were there. And that spurred introductions and invitations to join them at classes. If I could get myself there and I was willing to put in the work and bring my own ammo, they would open the door for me. And I did. So I started getting on airplanes and flying out to Colorado or to Alliance, Ohio, and you name it. And just pursuing people who had the answers to the questions I wanted to ask. At the time, I didn't know who these people were. I didn't know that they were rock stars. I didn't know a celebrity from Joe at the gun store counter. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what to Google search this stuff for. So, it was very serendipitous. And, I thank my lucky stars that I got those introductions. But from those introductions, I ended up spending a fair amount of time on the range with, at the time, the Magpul crew, which Steve Fisher was the final person in that line of cadre, and some of their co-instructors, which were amazing individuals. Introductions led to work with Pat Rogers, which was an incredible opportunity. It was one of the last group of people to really spend a lot of time with him before he passed away as a student. And he became a mentor over that 3-year span, where he was asking me to come and join him as an AI, which I never had the opportunity to do. But to know that invitation was there was huge. And of course, the folks that he trained with, Chappie and Doc Spears, also amazing individuals, and a lot of other people who came through the Alliance community. Those groups of people we didn't just go there for the instructors. We would go and take classes from those folks because of the people that came to take them alongside you. So you were learning beside people who were FBI SWAT and Delta and all the different alphabet agencies. And so you were learning just as much from them as you were from the lead instructor by having the experience of training with them in the shoot house and on the range. So that was incredible, absolutely incredible. Spend a lot of time with Super Dave Harrington, who's an amazing dude, a little intense. Brace yourself for Dave. His mind is phenomenal, and the way he thinks and deconstructs the art that is shooting is truly amazing. And spent a fair amount of time with Dave Spalding over a course of a couple classes over a number of years, and he's probably one of the most articulate individuals within the training community, absolutely outstanding communicator. So those are the folks that, that crest the top of the list of who I've trained with and learned with. But I've had the great pleasure of bouncing ideas off and sharing ideas with a lot of amazing people in this educational space.
It's really heartening to hear the way that most folks answer these questions. It's all about the people. Mm-hmm. This has been, for like my shorter journey, but actually longer in time, but shorter in knowledge, because I spent a lot of time doing things that weren't productive and trying to learn at first. But man, like the Spaldings of the world, those people, it's so amazing when you get to know these guys. They'll just break their backs to help you. Oh. And it's incredible to me how in the real world, in my real professional industry, which is not worth talking about on here, but nobody's breaking anybody's back to help anybody. It's all cutthroat. Everybody's mean and nasty and looking for the next dollar. And you get into the shooting community, and for the most part, people are like, "Hey, come on in. Let us help you." It's super refreshing, and it's nice that we all share in that. So that's really, really something quite special. What if you had to put your finger on your aha moment somewhere over those last 8 years, when you either thought, A, I've got this pretty well figured out, or B, holy shit, I have no idea what I'm doing, which my aha moment was actually that one, right? Was, oh God, I thought I knew and I don't. What would you say? Can you remember one moment that pivoted you and changed your trajectory for this stuff?
Absolutely. It was in the shoot house with Pat.
Okay.
And he threw me into an 11 solid day training program. I was going just to observe, and I might get to shadow a run or two. And after the intros, he threw me in, and I didn't stop for 11 days. So the amount of light bulbs going off, it was like the 4th of July nonstop for days. But and I didn't have any, I dabbled, maybe played in the house conceptually. I understood the basic concepts because that language wasn't too new, but I'd never done anything at that level or that level of intensity. And we got to a point where I apparently did a run and I didn't mess it up. And Pat used a lot of colorful language all the time. He was a very expressive guy. So he came up to me and he was like, what the bleep, T? And I was like, oh, what have I done? Like, I'm going home. That's it. We've done it. Like, I don't know. I really don't know what I did. So he had me repeat, what'd you do? So I play by played all the way through it. And the whole way through, I'm thinking, I could have done that better. He's absolutely right. I could have taken that piece better. Okay, I'm confessing to where I know I could have paused, hesitated, communicated, whatever, better. I dug that corner maybe actually a little too hard. You name it. I was very critical of the whole thing. And all of the aha moments were, you're right, Pat, I need to slow the bleep down. And at the end of it, he looked at me and he was like, you did great, kid. Get out of my house. I was like,
nice.
Whoa, all right. So that was one of those both sides of that coin moment. I was like, all right, well, point taken, and run while you can.
Get out before the compliments end. Run now. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
TJ, what do you got lined up? I know you got one in the cannon over there.
Man, I'm telling you that Tatiana, I got to say, I'm literally in awe of you right now.
Oh
no, seriously, the amount going from, just that general hunting, duck hunting, whatever, just from that modest introduction into the firearms industry to going through and training with all these people. If I could ask you anything for the folks at home that might be kind of where you were all, those years ago, what was one of the key questions that you found garnered you the best results that you were what's the question that you were trying to find the answer for that really kind of cemented the trajectory that you were going to end up being on, that really kind of launched you head and shoulders into the firearms industry to become the fantastic instructor that you are?
So it was a question and an experience that absolutely were the catalyst to doing this. Because I didn't get into shooting thinking, I'm going to be an instructor someday, and I'm going to go champion the largest women's shooting organization for their educational. I didn't have a plan. Come on, that 10-year plan. This was not in it. But for me, I had come to a point in my life where I was enjoying the traveling training thing. I was enjoying the traveling student to train gig of this. And I was at the time a single mom living in a cute little town of Freeport, Maine, home of LL Bean people. It's adorable little town with my two little kids who were 3 and 4 years old. And I got a knock on the door, and it was a local cop, and he let me know he's like, I don't want to alarm you, ma'am. There's nothing wrong, but I wanted to bring to your attention that you'll see us coming through the neighborhood a little bit more. There are a number of individuals, families, elderly couples here who are receiving home hospice care. And as a result of that frequency and the volume of people here, we're starting to see some home invasions because there are known narcotics to be in their fridge. So we wanted to make you aware and just to be alert and to notify us if you see anything that looks out of place. That to me was the biggest kick in the gut I could have gotten, because here I am thinking that I know I'm okay. I've got my concealed carry permit. I've got guns, I've got a giant, enormous Fort Knox safe in my basement filled with super cool stuff. And I've got the little thing by my bed for the carry gun. And I started looking around at my house and realizing I lived in a death trap and I didn't know what to do. And I started looking at the room and evaluating where my kids' rooms were in relation to the sliding glass doors of the deck, and what is I going to hear that or wasn't I going to hear that? I started looking at the perimeter of the yard. It was like all of a sudden, my home was in high definition, and it scared me to death. And what scared me more than that was how much I realized while I had this stuff and I had the illusion that I might possibly know what to do, I didn't. I really didn't. So that was the catalyst for me to ask some of my local guys questions. Like, okay, so I'm transitioning from primary to secondary weapon systems here. That's totally a ton of fun. And you can look super cool and great for YouTube on that and Instagram with that. So that's super awesome. And I'm wearing a plate carrier, a borrowed plate carrier at the time, which is way too big, but it's kind of awesome that I get to put this thing on. That in no way translates to me in my jammies with two little kids in their pull-ups at 3 o'clock in the morning. So how do I take this home? How do I make this cool kid stuff valid for me at home? Because at the time, what I was learning was kind of range choreography. I was learning techniques and, specific skill sets, but I had no practical application. I had no way to plug that into my life. And at the time, there really weren't that many conversations about contextual training or making it relevant to a home and everyday civilian standpoint. It was still very cool kid, civilian operator mentality. So that's when I started leaving and going to pursue those other programs. And the people that had the answers to those programs, regardless of what it looked like, I knew I needed to learn how to move through my house with a gun in my hand, with other people in my way. So yes, donning multicam from head to toe and putting on a plate carrier and running around with, a Sims equipped carbine and pistol is absolutely translatable to your home life. While you might not have a team of 8 people to back you up, you still have to learn the logic of safely moving through a structure with a firearm and how to deal with that problem, how terrifying it is to open a door into a space you don't know what's on the other side. So that experience of, oh my gosh, I realize with full emotive nausea just how much I don't know what to do here, combined with, okay, go get it. And how do I make this real? And that opened up the floodgates to, all right, so now I'm teaching a basic pistol class. Great. This lady's asking me concealed carry questions at a basic pistol class. How can I start building into a basic pistol class the manipulation of the firearm logic that's going to be work for her when she goes to then learn how to carry appendix? How can I build that into the basic handling skill sets now? How can I build in mental pauses to shift gears through the basic load, make, ready, through to clear and control the gun back to the bench or the holster? How can I build those emotive and decision-making pauses into this process so that they have that tool right out of the gate? How do I merge that thinking early on? And that cultivated and started churning, and those have developed those types of, that is one example, that's really informed the curriculum that I work with now. So I'm not necessarily doing super high speed stuff, but man, your brain is engaged and you've got to really start making it yours in a way that's real to you right out of the gate.
That's impressive. Allow me to follow up with this. You mentioned the term, training in context. Obviously, that's those that would visit your website will see that that's practically your headline, right? So, tell us a little bit more about what training in context means.
Sure.
Obviously, you alluded to it a little bit in your previous answer, but just soup to nuts. What do you mean when you say training in context?
It's relevancy in your life. So the range does not look like where we live, even though I'm at the range and I work at ranges and that's pretty much my home. I don't live at a range. It's such a sterile environment. It's so artificial in its nature. It's designed structurally, architecturally to be the most safe environment possible with a firearm and a group of people with firearms. It's a ballistically safe box if you're in an indoor range and you're in a little, cradle of dirt if you're in an outdoor range, right? It's designed to be safe. When I go home, there is no lateral limits of a berm. There is no immediate safe direction. There is no great place to have a loaded firearm out of a holster in my house. So right out of the get-go, when we're talking about firearm safety, we're talking about, you can spew the 4 to 5 to 7, depending on which school of thought you're going through checklist style. But if you just take the basic 5 and you say them straight out of the NRA's playbook, it's gone, right? In one ear and out the other, and nod and smile. And sure, I grasp that conceptually, but until I give you the story that makes you think about how you would handle your firearm in this context, Does it become real? Does that connection take place? What happens very quickly is, when you're in your living room and you're looking at the entrance to your living room from the main point of entry, can you see the back door from your living room, or the side door from your living room? Most homes you can, right? The living room is right off of the front door. If you were to look that and somebody were to come bursting through that door right now, where is your firearm? Where is your safe direction? Where is your finger? Where is the muzzle pointed? All of those things. Where are people that you love in relation? Where do they normally sit in that space in relation to where you normally sit and that door? So now the rules of firearm safety are starting to make sense to you, or you're starting to recognize, oh boy, I got to think. I really need to think that one through. So I take a lot of those types of mental storytelling, and we blend that into the work that we're doing. So the after action, or the scan and assess. Do you really know how to do that, or are you just doing a tactical hair flip? I can't. I don't have enough hair to do it, but you get the idea, right? Like, you doing whiplash here? What are we doing? There's the difference between choreography and effective skill sets and effective thinking. So, there are some amazing people out there doing shoot house programs. Go take a class from them with that. If you want to learn at a fundamentals level how to blend the worlds between the range that we experience and the world that we live in, that's training in context. That's putting those skill sets early on in the learning process in a place in your mind that you can relate to. William April talks about having parking spaces for experiences, so that your brain knows where to go in the event of something happening. Or you're just going to keep circling the block, right? Circling the block, something happens. Okay, I know I've pre-gamed this. I've thought this through. I know I need to park here, or I can park here, at which point you can get out of the car, you can solve the problem. So the types of training and context mean that we're leading you through the logic of working with your firearm and all the fundamental skill sets in a way that you are then able to plug them in the event something happens. Your brain has experienced, has rehearsed that parking space and what that means to you in a space that you live in, work in, play in, frequent. And we do a lot of visualization through that process to make it real and relevant.
I feel like we should have just led this off with the words, Tatiana, be awesome. And then we should have just muted ourselves and just let you TED talk, because this is incredible. This is great for us. So now that you've just given all of us junior baby instructors enough note taking for the next 10 years, why don't you do what you get to do that is unique to you and I could never do, which is champion women's causes with regard to shooting. And I saw your eyes light up when I just said that, and you're all spun up and you're ready to do it. I'm going to give you just a little bit of a caveat on it, though, and I'm going to be honest with you. TJ and I are not entirely sure how to approach this, because we're married dudes, and we're not always great at being married dudes. TJ, here was some of the stuff you were talking about with me earlier when we were pre-gaming for Tatiana, which, by the way, believe it or not, I know we're not polished, but we do kind of prepare sometimes. A little bit.
I mean, yeah, a little bit in between lunch breaks. Yeah, it happens. Yeah. So Tatiana, I'm certain you get the question quite a bit. How do we teach women to shoot? Right. Us, knuckle dragging guys, husbands, the oafs portrayed on various sitcoms across various cable networks. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that some of that wasn't at least a little bit true. While many of us, I think, could be at least naive enough to consider ourselves competent enough to instruct just about anybody who's willing to learn, what I would love to pick your brain about is, how do we get women, not necessarily even just our wives, but females specifically, interested enough to want to come to the range, right? Because it's easy once they're there. Once they're at the range, they've already shown that interest. How do we bridge that gap, so to speak, to get them to want to come to the range?
Create an opportunity that's not with you. That's probably the very first thing. So if you're a spouse trying to encourage your loved one to come to the range with you, the best way And of course, both genders say this, but the best way to win the war is to make them think it was their idea. We say that about each other all the time. Men say it about women say it about men, right? It's real. So, and it's true. So the thing is, if you can create an opportunity for her to have that experience without you there, with someone you trust, whether it's a good friend, right, or a female instructor that you vetted, because I don't care if they're male or female, vet your instructors, or you find an opportunity for her to go to a girl and a gun girls' night out, right, where you know it's going to be a birds of a feather experience and she'll be well cared for and the safety is spot on. That's what you're needing to do. You need to find an opportunity, whether it's a big one or a small one, or just let's just get a taste of this with someone that's not you. Sign her up for, give her a gift of a private lesson with an instructor that you know and believe in, right? That's also a great, she's not going to worry about you judging her. Because as much as we say we love our significant others, the last thing we want to do is feel pressured by them. Someone's going to end up sleeping on the couch. That's what's going to happen, and the reality is the dynamic between spouses is you read each other's nonverbal cues at a subconscious level. So she's picking up on everything you don't even know you're putting out, right? And all of that nonverbal stuff raises anxiety and judgment, and it's not good. So if you can make that first experience happen and it's a positive one, the goal is that she's going to want to come to the range with you the next time you go. Right? So your job is to really make sure that first experience is rock star stellar. She should come home pumped, excited, like, I am so going to outshoot you when we go to the range on Thursday. That's how you want her to come home. And then the floodgates open and it's up to you. Magazines are better than flowers. Ammo totally trumps chocolates. And if you really do something silly, start sending guns. Okay. Like, all bets are off once you've got her hooked. Forget out the credit card because it's going down.
I love it. That's a great answer. So for those of us who are operating a training business, albeit a smaller one than yours,
yeah,
I'll be candid. One of my favorite questions, and I don't even remember who first asked it, was, what have you changed your mind about lately? Something I've changed my mind about lately within the last year or so has been, I used to say when people ask me about training females or offering classes to female shooters, I'd say, quite frankly, this is our show. We can do it. Who the fuck cares? They're another person. Yeah. They've got 10 digits and 2 hands and 2 eyes and 1 brain, just like I do, and I don't need to treat them any differently. And then I look at my enrollment and I see Jerry, Larry, Tim, Tom, James, Frank, Mike, Stephanie. And then, you see where I'm going with this? And I think, I might be wrong on this. So for those of us operating a training environment or a range environment where we're trying to spur on women at large, the public female, to come into our programs, besides the obvious answer, which is Girl and a Gun is awesome and we should be hosting that stuff, etc. What can we be doing to better market our individual product as a class, not guns and pink holsters and nonsense, because I've heard you hammer on that stuff relentlessly. But the training product itself, how can that be better marketed to a female?
Let's face it, we all want to envision ourselves. We want to see ourselves in that experience. So when I see a class marketed and it's an open enrollment class and I don't see any women on the line in that promotional picture, how am I supposed to envision myself there? And women are very sensitive to this. We project, right? It's a simple marketing concept that's been used for decades. This isn't rocket surgery. If we can see an example of something we can relate to, we will envision ourselves there. We'll project ourselves into that experience. If that person looks like they're having a good time, I might have a good time too. So I would encourage folks to get great imagery of your classes. If you can afford to pay a photographer to do it, do it. But I mean, if you're putting out a good product for a class and you have smiling people doing good work, showing good technique, come on now, let's not misrepresent our student body, but make sure you include women on the line in your course promotion videos, pictures, you name it, if you would like to see them there. Otherwise, don't expect them to show up. It's a very small percentage of women who go to these classes like, bring it, I'm here. I got nothing to be embarrassed about, everything to learn, fully expect that I'm going to make some mistakes. I don't care, I want the knowledge. They're a small percentage. They're there. They're the hard chargers.
Yep.
I know one of them, right? But it's real. However, if I feel like I can go and relate to other people, and I'm not going to be alone in that experience, you're more inclined to see groups, 2, 3 women going to take a class together.
Awesome. So that's marketing. What about POI? Is there a difference in POI from a female-centric class to a regular class, or should I be? And this is I have my own opinions and thoughts on this, but should I be adjusting my POI to be sensitive to the fact that there are now females in class?
Language and jokes are typically where we lose people, and I'll throw that out there. I know that's low-hanging fruit, but I'll throw that out there. I'm not saying you have to, talk like you're at church all the time, but if that's what your audience and your group dynamic requires, then you need to cater to them. You're there for them, not for you. And that's really key. If you recognize that you're making even one person in the class shut down, you're not doing your job. So you need to remedy that and do some self-reflection there. But yes, there is a difference, and it comes from a matter of perspective. I've experienced that most of the guys that I teach want to know the how. How do I do this? Give me the technical, give me the mechanical, give me the meat and potatoes of the what I do to make this work. Women tend to, and then we give them the why I'm doing it, right? Women flip that coin over. Tell me why I'm doing it, so I'm motivated to get the pieces together and execute. So you're not changing anything about your material. You're just providing 2 perspectives of the same story. You're delivering the same information, but you're just inverting the delivery. And that tends to be the biggest. And it seems so simple and so silly, but when you introduce, all right, this is why we're going to do this type of reload. Where would I have to use this? Why would it be relevant to do it this way? And then show me how to do it. Okay, I got you. Right? That has been a resoundingly successful technique working with groups of women.
Very, very cool. So speaking of working with groups of women on the range, a girl and a gun and go, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, do that. Tell us all about it.
Well, I was introduced to a girl and a gun about 6 years ago now. I got contacted by Robin and Juliana, the founders and champions of the organization, and they invited me to come and deliver the second national conference. There were 300 women in attendance, national training event. And I was going to be the keynote speaker. And I stressed out like you would not believe. It was going to be my first major speech in front of any firearms community. And I listened to every how to give a TED talk, podcast, blog, book I could. Because I was like, oh, no pressure. Like they're just their headliner. That's it. Don't mess this up. So I did all of that, and I showed up at the event, and I looked around, and I recognized very quickly that my message was off. And the reason it was off was I didn't really understand my audience. And you have to recognize that I'd really only trained exclusively with men. I'd only ever, besides that first class I took, I really had never I didn't do any women's only classes after that. And at the time, I kind of had a negative opinion of women's only anything. Why do we need it? We're just like any other. I had that, what changed your mind? That event changed my mind. Because I was there and I experienced the most incredible group of people in the shooting community I'd ever been exposed to. And they were all walks of life, all shapes and sizes, every level of physicality you can imagine. I had a legally blind student in one of my classes. She could echolocate the target if I hit a rock with it. And she'd shoot it where the rock hit the thing. It was unbelievable.
Wait.
Superhuman powers.
You mean like a dolphin? Like dolphin aiming?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would throw a rock at the cardboard target, and she could draw, and she's not trying to make any time hacks here, but she could impact the target where I hit the target. And, again, she's not going for speed, but she was meticulous and safe and unbelievable. And she was an elderly lady. And she was there because she knew she needed to have some self-defense skills. And with an aide and an assistant, she was spot on and amazing. And I was honored to have her on the line. worked with people with advanced levels of MS, people that have been in wheelchair. I mean, and their attitude was unbelievable. And the key thing was there was no ego in this space. There was no bravado here. This was just a group of people who were hungry for information, and they had a fair amount of it already. This wasn't a group of like, we're going to sit around and drink wine gals and go shopping on Amazon for holsters. These people wanted to shoot, and they were throwing some lead down. It was invigorating. It was really cool. And I recognized that, not only were they inspiring, but the organization itself was really inspiring. And so I changed the shift of that keynote address to be one that met them and spoke to them. And it was, and now that I look back on it, very much in line with the A Girl and a Gun message, which is bring to the range who you are, where you are, and we'll take you from there. Because all bets are off. If you want this, you can go from a fine artist, an industrial designer running a plastics injection molding facility and designing automation, right, to standing up on stage giving a keynote address about what it means to be a female in the firearms industry and overcoming all of the stereotypes you impose on yourself. And that organization has been phenomenal to do it. And they are rooted in education. So of all of the communities I could have joined, when it was offered to me going on 2 years ago now to come on board after Kathy Jackson had retired as director of training with the Girl and a Gun for, I believe, 10 years, to take that role on, I did the happy dance in the minivan. I was like, yes, absolutely. I would love to support this. I'd love to contribute in any way that I can. And it has been an absolutely incredible experience. There are thousands of women in that organization nationwide. We have some youth members, some junior members. My daughter's 10, she's a member. And I think some of our oldest members are in their early 90s. Everybody, you name it. Again, all walks of life, all level of physicality. We've got people who plink and then sit down and then get up and plink some more and then sit down. And then we've got some people who are, high level national competition shooters, who are sponsored by major brands that are leading chapters of dozens of women all over the country. So we have the opportunity to work with people, but work with ranges who host us and host our chapters and support the efforts of bringing more women through the educational process to be safe, range safe shooters. And then we do that kick you out of the nest thing. Our job at A Girl and a Gun is to make you a range safe shooter, to understand and appreciate and be excited about going and learning more from other places. And go, give you the courage to go to that match, give you the courage to go take that class and be the only chick there. Who cares? You're going to be good. You can be an active learner. That's the mission of A Girl and a Gun. And it's been pretty phenomenal. And that community, I have to say, and I've really, truly, all the women's organizations in the shooting community are this way. It's not unique to A Girl and a Gun, but I just know A Girl and a Gun's more intimately than the others. It becomes and I don't say this in a tacky way, but a sisterhood. It's an extended family of women across the country. There are already efforts going on nationwide to raise funds for folks affected by the hurricane. There's always, we're always standing up for each other and reaching out and making sure we're there monetarily, support-wise, whatever anyone needs. It's a phenomenal group of people, and it's all driven by the membership. Management never issues an edict about this stuff. The community is what pulls that together and makes it possible. So it's been fun. It has been a really fun experience working with this group.
Kathy Jackson must have been some big old shoes to fill.
Yeah, no pressure.
Yeah, really. My God. For those unfamiliar, Kathy Jackson is famous for the Cornered Cat brand of firearms training and books and web content and articles, et cetera, et cetera. If you're going to have to fight like a cornered cat. I dumbly tried to stuff that stuff under my wife's nose when I was, going to show her the ropes, right? But certainly really, really interesting to hear the lineage of an organization like that. Mm-hmm. I initially, like you said, I initially had a negative connotation of women's only, or for that matter, anything only. Like if this was what's the LGBTQ firearms training? Help me.
There's a couple of one. There's Blazing Swords, founded in Florida.
The one that Jeff Lubin's involved. Anyway, the point being, I thought, why do you need your own special place? Like, why can't you just come to the big group?
Mm-hmm.
Not in a discriminatory way, but simply, why can't we all just be shooters and not have any other labels attached to us?
It seems self-exclusionary.
Correct. And the more I've experienced seeing ladies and seeing people who have come to the shooting community through these organizations, and then, like you said, got kicked out of the nest at some point, and then joined the broader community, it helped me realize that person might not have showed up had it not been for that.
Exactly.
They might not have been a net promoter. They might have been a net detractor, to use terrible marketing terms. They might have gone the other way on us, and because they felt like they had a safe space, right? They were able to come in and they were able to experience what they turned out to really enjoy. So truly, this happened to me a year plus ago, but having you here on this format, I want to just say that I was ill-informed on the subject and I was incorrect. And I can admit that. And it's really neat to see what you guys have accomplished.
Well, it's fun.
So
it's fun to see more people follow that line of thought as they experience these things. And, minds can be changed. Mine was, yours was. And it's not I'm cooler than, or I'm too self-righteous too. It's, if you're an instructor and an educator, why are you in this? Why are you doing this? Do you just feel like you want to be on stage? Are you a performer? Or are you in this to educate people and give them information and watch them transform? Are you in this for the people who show up? And if you are, then there is nothing you won't do to create an opportunity for them to come and join you and be successful.
Absolutely correct. And it's interesting to see the progression. So as the director of training, you are responsible for I'm going to use the term cadre because I don't know what you would call it, but you're responsible for, you said management does an edict, but obviously you're developing curriculum and then putting that out in a train the trainer kind of mentality to chapter leaders and stuff like that. Is that your role predominantly, or?
Yes. Well, it's a huge, it could be a business in and of itself. But again, the mission of A Girl and a Gun is to bring more people through the range, being a range safe shooter, and have the core fundamental skill sets to be successful, whatever their interests lead them down in the firearms world. And it's multifaceted. So in year one, what we did was the organization offers all of its members a complimentary, downloadable or purchasable book that not many people know we have if you're not within the community. And that book needed a refresh and an update. And it needed a set of explanations and drills that would establish a base standard of performance for 12 core skill sets. So that's what we did in year one. We rewrote the book, and it's probably the biggest mental jigsaw puzzle I've ever had to do, to write a 200-something page training manual that caters to 3 levels of skill sets and takes you through a progression over 12 months of exercises, drills, custom targets, discussions on what the drill and the experience is all about, how it relates to your personal training regimen, all of that stuff. So it's a 12-month piece by piece exploration of fundamental core skill sets. And there is we'll call it an entry level or a novice, brand new set of dry fire and live fire drills. Call it an intermediate and a more experienced, i.e. a competitive shooter level set that go with each month. So 70-something drills. Nope. And we're not trying to regurgitate anybody else's material. We're trying to make this something that is unique to the organization. So that was one of the major accomplishments we accomplished in year one was publishing, and it is an ISDN copyrighted book that's out there. And it's been a phenomenal resource, and that established a baseline of how does the organization would like to see you safely conduct a load and make ready, void of law enforcement, military, cool kid ninja flips technique. We tried to create an accent-less script that could be developed and changed and modified based on who you are and what you want to do. And that was no short order. That was, again, quite a mental workout to create that piece and make sure that it's scripted in a way that's going to be safe in an indoor or an outdoor range, and given people's, the extreme states of gun handling at different venues and facilities. So that standard baseline was year one. And going into this year, we established a course that we wanted to offer. What would have been my ideal first range experience? What would that intro class, if I could dream one up, what would I have wished it could be? So I spent a couple of months scripting it out, ran dozens of these classes to flush out the program in my travels and at my home range here at Maine House Gun Shop, where I'm also director of training. And we cultivated and honed in a 3-hour intro class. That time frame was just enough to keep people from melting down and be getting overwhelmed, and gave them just the core skill sets to confidently approach any semi-automatic handgun, safely handle it, clear it, confirm it, shoot it, be safe and comfortable in a range environment, because it's the other thing most women are worried about. I don't want to embarrass myself at this place. I need to know how to behave in this place. Don't set me up to fail. It's not all about the gun. It's what do I do when I get there with this thing? I don't want to feel lost, and I don't want to embarrass myself because I don't know. And I don't want to be unsafe because I don't know. So within that 3 hours, we cover that material. So that is the Girl in a Gun Women's Intro to Handgun class. So that program is out there, and we have a fairly tough orientation and credentialing program that we have our candidates go through. We require an annual qual. You have to pass the current FBI qual, which pretty much covers in a short qual experience a lot of those core skill sets, and where has you work out at distances that are common for indoor range environments. So we're not making you shoot at 50 or 100 yards with a pistol. I'm not that mean. But you have to pass the FBI qual at the instructor level to do that, and resubmit those annually to maintain your creds. And from that, we then do the train the trainer on how the method of delivery of this material is with the A Girl in a Gun logic. What's the experience? How do you deliver? How do you foster? How do you work with a line of people? And that program, in year one, we have certified 15 instructors that are spread across the country. So it's not something we're handing out. And these people need to make sure our candidates have to be a facilitator already or a chapter leader. They have to come with NRA, USCCA, or Range Master instructor level credentials already. They have to have had Stop the Bleed. I mean, there's a laundry list of, you've got to be legitimate already. You have to be a proficient communicator and shooter before we will give you permission to take this branded curriculum and go and offer it into the world. So that's part of what we're doing. And it's, we're not trying to rocket ship into a million different programs. We want to make sure that we were putting out there is quality, and the instructors that we are blessing are going out and representing the brand well, and are really doing a good job. We don't want to just, we don't want to knight everybody that just wants the credential, because it's a big responsibility, and we take that very seriously.
Is the entire cadre female?
You have to be a Girl in a Gun chapter leader, and to be a chapter leader, yes, you have to be or identify or live as a woman.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
But so there are no male instructors in a Girl in a Gun?
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry, Kent.
He's like, darn it.
I mean, shit.
It's a good class.
I could just see Kent introducing himself as, "Hi, I'm Kent. I'm a female firearms instructor."
Right.
Katrina, that would have been my name. So the chapter leaders are spread throughout the country, and I assume findable on the website. Mm-hmm. Actually, I know they're findable on the website because I already screwed around with it a little bit. And if you are a female and you're looking for this, you can go where and find it?
agirlinagun.org. And right in the header title bar of menu options, you can find a chapter, and it will list all of the ranges that are near you, and it will give you everything across the country that we have for chapters. We have over 200 chapters, and we are growing rapidly. We added 20 plus chapters last year, and I will probably beat that again this year. So if you're looking and you don't find one in your area, and you're an individual who is a certified NRA instructor already, or you're willing to go through that process, and interested and have a relationship with a range in your area, and you would like to champion a chapter, contact Robin through the A Girl and a Gun website, and we have a lot of discussions with people, and we nurture people through the process of becoming credentialed and certified enough to open a chapter and be a leader of that community.
Really cool. Now, one thing I can or maybe could help you with is from the range side, because I'm on the board at least one range, maybe two coming up here, because why not? I have no more free time in my life. If those of us who are involved in ranges, what can we do to help?
Welcome them. Welcome the chapters there. We see a lot of resistance from folks going, we would love to have a women's group come in, but we're going to lead it. Okay. Like we want you here, but we're taking care of everything. We don't, and it may be a trust issue. You know, there's concern that it's going to be all cutesy and, you know, giggly and all of that stuff. But these women want to shoot. They want to get on the line, and they want to make good, pretty awesome things to go hang on their front door or their refrigerator. You know, like they want
front door. I love it.
You know, like they want to shoot. This isn't, you know, cutesy social hour. Like we want to put in work, and we want to learn, and we want to get good at this. So that's, you know, that's one of those things. You have to be willing to allow women's group to come in and actually be a women's group autonomously, following the rules of the range, of course. We're not looking for any special considerations here or exceptions, but you have to be willing to let them come in and do what they do within reason. And, you know, of course, all things being equal, people need to be held accountable, and we have to follow those rules. Again, no exceptions here. Safety is safety, period. But that's one of the biggest and hardest things for ranges to let go. Well, you can come in, but you can't instruct. Well, define instructing. If I have a new lady showing up to the range for the very first time, I'm going to have to show her how to handle this. Am I conducting a private lesson? I'm conducting some safety coaching right now, because she can't be left alone, and she shouldn't be left alone. So that's where we see some rubs. So either allow them to be autonomous because the leader is capable and her support staff is also credentialed and capable. We have what's called A-team, which are the right, left hand, and all the fingers and toes, sometimes depending on the size of the chapter. And those A-team members are largely NRA range safety officers as well, with their own set of NRA, USCCA, range master, you name it, credentials. So they're not unskilled non-professionals. And if that group doesn't have that, then perhaps offer to assist the lead instructor or the chapter leader and be a resource to her if she needs and should feel comfortable to call upon you for that support. So, you know, it's hard for some folks, you know, we always call it the good old boys club. You know, how do you break through that? It's a discussion we have with many new chapter leaders who are trying to find a home range, and they're met with stereotypical resistance, and that's frustrating. Typically, it takes a call with Robin, Juliana, or I to give a depth of information about what the organization does and what it's really all about, and who this person that's coming to them truly is and what they have to offer. Because we're not taking away from range income. We're bringing income to ranges. Mm-hmm. We're bringing in range fees. We're bringing in a feeder group of people who will be encouraged to go on and participate in that range's core curriculum or join other activities that are happening at the range, pin shoots or IDPA, you name it. You know, you have an opportunity as a venue embracing a women's group chapter to increase your customer base, because we're loyal. Women are loyal. If that's my home range, I shoot there. You know, like, that's how that works with us. And if you're lucky enough to be a range and a retail, we want to shop there too. So, you know, we're a very lucrative relationship to have with a venue.
I did not realize women like to shop.
No? Okay. You know, ask your wife more, you know.
I just so TJ, you got anything? Because I got like 11 more questions I could ask. You got one you need to throw in here?
So, Tatiana, I was watching another interview you did where you talked about that you carry on occasion a full-size 1911.
Yeah.
So this is going to be one of those canned questions that I'm sure you get quite a bit, but for the listeners out there, you mentioned specifically that method of carry is incredibly important, especially for women, based more on geometric attributes than anything else. So, what types of gear do you prefer? Like, what do you like for holsters? Everybody sees the advertisements for all these. I hesitate to lump them into these types of groups, but by women for women, it's all pink or animal print or something like that, and it's kind of missing the bead. While it might be a marketing, it might do good for marketing and get attention. We're talking practical. What does the real professional female shooter prefer, or what are your recommendations?
The quick answer to that is there's no one size fits all. However, there are principles that apply to everyone. And women are the most demanding user group for concealment. I enjoy carrying a full-size 1911 because I love those guns. I have such a soft spot in my heart. They're just so pretty. No, and I really enjoy them, and I really enjoy shooting them, and I'm fairly proficient with them, and so I have a lot of confidence in them.
If I could interrupt you real quick, it's almost like somebody should get with you and design one based on your input.
Shameless plug.
No.
Shameless plug.
Right.
Well, I'm fortunate enough to have great relationships with a bunch of manufacturers, and it's an honor when they ask for your input. So relationships with Chambers Customs, he makes some beautiful guns. Agency Arms, I'm sponsored by them, and those conversations are phenomenal. So shameless plug for both of those companies. Check them out online and enjoy them. Nighthawk Customs too makes some phenomenal gear, and I've had a wonderful relationship with them for years. So there's great equipment out there. Hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, sorry, didn't mean to derail you, but I just thought of Chambers as you were talking about 1911s, and I was like, I'm pretty sure she's got one of them, doesn't she? It's almost like, yeah.
They're beautiful.
What?
I mean, I had a student call it the Tesla of 1911s. I was like, oh, that's like, I can get behind that. That's catch line, right?
Like it drives itself. I like that.
No, I've peeped that 1911 you're working on with Chambers, and yeah, that's an accurate, like it's tongue in cheek, but it's pretty accurate. That's a slick looking rig right there. I'm impressed.
Pretty much any Chambers gun I've had the pleasure of shooting on the range is pretty unreal. And he has quite a variety of options there now, especially with the professional series and what he's done with Pressburg and Reston too. And he's got some stuff in the works that's going to be incredible. So if you're not following Chambers Customs already, please make sure you do so. If not, just to oogle the beautiful stuff that comes out, and it's spectacular. But to get back to answering your question, because I could go down that rabbit hole for another hour easily.
We ain't stopping you. Do what you got to do.
Yeah. But when it comes to fitting a woman for concealment, it comes down to at first identifying body type. And I'm not talking if you're a 2 or a 16, what body type are you? Because there's every body type in every size. And your body type, your body shape is going to determine the most successful carry method for you. And this is where most women get derailed by working with guys who are like, oh, you carry here or here. Because on the shape and contour of your torso, right, the 4 to 5 inch band that houses the gun, regardless of anything else on us, y'all are pretty rectangular. We are all of the angles all over the place. All right. You're pretty rectangular, except maybe over here. We don't judge. But us, we've got all the angles all the way around in every conceivable direction. Good luck finding a one that's going to fit everybody all the time. So I have the worst possible body type for carrying concealed. And it's funny, but if you're hourglass, I am sorry. Like it's the worst. Your options are very limited, and it's a very small window of space you have to consistently and comfortably position that gun on your body. So because of being hourglass and carrying big guns, the only place that I can do that successfully, I'm a right-handed person, so I'm doing cross draw appendix. So I bump the gun over next to my left side hip, anywhere between my left side hip and my belly button. And depending on the size of the gun and the way the gun lays against my body, it'll be biased more towards the hip or more center line. So that's the first direction. The second direction to take into consideration is the rise of the pant you're wearing, because the higher the rise of the pant, the bigger gun you can accommodate comfortably carrying appendix. The lower the rise of the pant, you're talking subcompact, compact, subcompact comfortably. So position and placement and how the pant height supports that gun, that's where you have to start that conversation, or we don't get anywhere. Beyond that, I really love gear that allows me to make those micro adjustments based on what I'm wearing without adding bulk. So I've been really enjoying a couple of things lately, and it seems to work for a wide number of people, which is why I'm enjoying them a lot. Tenacor makes some incredible inside the waistband holsters that on their own might look bulky and cumbersome, but they flatten the gun out and orient it against your body in such a way that the gun lays ridiculously flat and reduces printing and aids in comfort. So it eliminates the common friction points and it biases it just perfect. I'm really enjoying those for appendix carry concealment. And again, it might look bulky, but give it a try. You might be surprised at how comfortable and discreet they become. And for belts, which is, of course, what's a holster without a belt? Belt is the biggest source of contention for women carrying concealment. None of us want to wear one because it makes us all lumpy where we don't want to be lumpy. Okay, let's just call a spade a spade. Like, we do not want to do that. However, there are options that reduce that and reduce printing. Mean Gene Leather has a belt called the Free Flight belt, and it is a buckleless belt. One of the other things that makes it hard to be discreet and not look like you're, 4 to 5 months pregnant carrying a gun around. None of us want to look fat or fatter with a gun. Come on now, that's besides the point. That buckle or that connection point or that overlapping tail of the belt that's hanging out there, that just changes your torso and how you're able to, you got to reduce that bulk any chance you can get. So to have a buckleless belt where it essentially overlaps, velcros onto itself with stays at the end of that tail to keep it flat against your body has been an absolute game changer for me and for so many women that are carrying. And because it's buckleless, you're not committed to a pinhole that might fit you this month or a pinhole that doesn't work in these jeans because they're a little higher or a little lower. Or, oh, it's the holidays. Let's bump that out a little bit. It's very versatile for the time of year, or the season, or the apparel. So it's a go-to for pretty much everything. And it just disappears on the body, which is really, really key and really huge. So position and placement, the Tenacor holsters and the Mean Gene leather belts have been, those have been the critical elements in working with women in concealment lately. And yes, if you pull those things together successfully, you can comfortably carry a full-size gun.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah. These are conversations that I'm not able to have with female students in the same way that you would be, right?
Well, yeah.
Well, let's just be real.
It only gets dicey when we're like, what body type are you? And it's like, well, right. I don't really want to talk to you about that.
I'm the dad body type.
Yeah. Hashtag dad bod is real.
Yeah, we're generally square if you look at us from the front. Let me get that Alfred Hitchcock profile there for you.
Oh my goodness. So, Tatiana, speaking of guns and gun preferences, let me ask you just a couple of gear geek questions while I have you, if you don't mind. Are you living the dot life?
Mm-hmm.
You are?
I am enjoying the dot life more and more. largely because I have a community of participants in my classes and with a girl and a gun who have crested 40 or past 40, and their eyes are no longer agreeing with them. And it seems like the farther you get past, my mother told me when you hit 40, kiss your eyes goodbye. She was not wrong. So once that change starts happening, it's all downhill. And welcome to corrective lenses, trifocals. Like, where are we going to put the line, and where's it going to be? And do you make shooting glasses for people who have like astigmatisms and I can't see here and there? The dot has been a real game changer in facilitating those people's success at the range. So it's by, yes, I love them and they're fun, and necessity to cater to those participants that I've been working more and more with the dot. I am not the guru of dots. I shoot them. I enjoy them. I've been shooting one of the Hollow Sun models. The model number is not at the tip of my tongue. Obviously, the Trijicon RMRs, which I have on all of my agency guns, are phenomenal. They're industry standard for a reason. They've stood the test of time for a reason. And then the Aimpoint Acro is pretty cool. So, we've got a lot more options now for pistol mounted red dots than we've ever had, and across a variety of price points too, which make them really, really viable now.
Fun fact, Kent's glasses are made out of the windows that are on Trijicon RMRs.
Really?
So interestingly enough, this might be one you haven't heard. I have a vision condition called keratoconus. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
Okay. What it does is it takes light, depending on the angle, and reflects it off your cornea in all kinds of goofy ways.
Really?
So your cornea is supposed to be generally flat with a slight curvature.
Mm-hmm.
Mine looks like the effing Grand Canyon.
Okay.
What's that?
Okay.
Yeah. So it's lumpy and bumpy and has ridges and all this. So my dominant eye is worse. And the only thing I can do is focus downrange. That whole like sharp sight focus thing for me that was also the rage 10 years ago. Ain't happening, bro. Wasn't working for me at all. It's always been a target focus and a blurred out mid-range on the gun. I was never able to do it any differently. So when the dot got awesome, I was like, well, yeah, what do you mean I'm supposed to? I've been looking down there the whole time. You all were looking here? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
But it's interesting what I've seen, knowing that with people with vision issues. I've seen a lot of people who don't have vision issues switch to the dot and then attempt to use the dot like a front sight. And, So that does happen.
Yeah.
Other crazy gear questions. Let's see. We talked about your 1911s. And just so we're clear, 1911s are metal guns with switches on them, people. Like there's little safeties and so forth. So you're running something that Chambers put together based on your specs or your input, your questions, comments, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he has a great program going with a bunch of industry professionals, and we did a very limited edition of a bobtail gun, bobtail 1911. And yeah, it's if you could have the Stradivarius of 1911 makers,
Stradivarius,
gun, what do? And you make all the pretty things. And so it's a fantastic. You can contact Joe to order one or to have a bobtail commander length 1911 made for you, and he is pretty exceptional.
Are you running that in 9 or 45?
The ones we did were in 9.
They're in 9. Mm-hmm. And is it a girl's 1911 or is it just a nice 1911 designed by a girl?
Well, there are no pink grips on it, so it's just a nice 1911.
Great answer. Great answer. No, I wasn't even really going to go there because, damn, there's some stupid stuff marketed to women. Yeah, we'll just make it pink and small and right. That it's for.
Unfortunately, it's like marketing to teenagers. You don't know what you don't know yet, right? So that industry, pink sells because it's relatable. The psychology of pink and purple and teal, all of those are very relatable, and they're almost impulse buys. You're speaking a color language that's a known color language. And it makes them, where I don't agree with it is where you're starting to project through the surface treatments or with the marketing an attitude that is one that is almost adolescent. Then I can't work with that. But do I care if this woman shows up with a Tiffany blue gun? No, she showed up with a gun. Do I care if it's muddy girl, pink and whatever? I do not care. I care that your attitude in relation to it is spot on and in where we need it to be. So I really don't care. When it starts being treated like a toy and decorative and flouncy and, then we've started to cross a line, and that line gets dangerous with attitude and application. And then we start compromising safety with that behavior pattern. That's where I start getting not too pleased with stuff. The other part that makes me a little crazy, and I'll stay on that soapbox for half a second, is the products that are designed and made for women that look like negligee and pretty much function just about that well. If it's an effective piece of gear, it needs to be designed to be an effective piece of gear. And the color, the materials need to be conducive to the functionality of why we're doing it. And I've seen some very scary techniques and some misuse of designs that, or designs that facilitate some less than savory handling skills and reholstering skills. So, just because it's marketed to women does not necessarily mean it is a viable solution for a firearm.
I will submit to you that the attitude of turning a gun into a decorative toy is not unique to females. Because, bro, I don't care about your Cerakote, and I don't need you to show it to all 30 people on the line while we're trying to get you through a free Thursday night class. You know who you are. If you're listening, I don't care. Stop it. Like, you don't have to go to the safe table every 5 minutes to show the whole world your new Cerakote job. We're here for a purpose right now.
Yeah, save the showing off for Instagram. When you're on the range, it's time to perform and be safe.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because there are definitely some dudes with some overly Gucci stuff that is not any more functional for them than something pink or teal would be for you. So, TJ, you want to move to let Tatiana do her closing stuff and plugs, or do you got anything else?
No, man, I that's it. Tatiana, we'd like to turn the floor over to you. Feel free, plug whatever sponsors and causes, whatever you'd like, and we'll take it out from there.
Absolutely. Well, you can find me, and these are all links that are in the show notes, but I can be found online at TatianaWhitlock.com. I made it really hard to find me. Just plug my name in, and it's pretty much everywhere. Don't have a cool company name. It's just me. So Facebook, Tatiana Whitlock, Instagram, Tatiana Whitlock, same thing with Twitter and LinkedIn. As far as sponsors, partners, and causes that I support, honored to be sponsored by Agency Arms. I'm one of the lead people and director of training with A Girl and a Gun Women's Shooting League. I have the great pleasure of working with a San Diego-based agency, marketing agency called Fidelitas Development that's been doing some amazing work within the firearms community. So that's been one of the really fun projects I do, because no one in the firearms world does just one job. We all have like 20 things that we rock out. I'm director of training at Howell's Gun Shop up in Gray, Maine, which is my home range. So if you're in New England, come up and say hi and shoot with us. I'm the representative for Maine for the DC Project. And if you're not familiar with the DC Project, it is women from every state who go to DC annually to meet with our legislators, both those pro and anti, or not necessarily supportive of the Second Amendment, and offer up resources, information, and key talking points on strategic or critical events that are happening within our legislation as a resource, and engaging in constructive dialogue with their teams and their team members who are their Second Amendment head people. So we've been able to do some very good work and engage with people across sides. It is a nonpartisan group of people who go, and we are doing our darndest to have that rational conversation in DC. Again, I support Tenacor Holster for holsters. They do a phenomenal job. I have a series of targets that are now available through Targets Online. love me some Mean Gene leather and some Scallywag tactical. My courses can be found on my website and at the Firearms Training Hub. And then, of course, work with Dynamic Munitions out of Texas, which is a veteran-owned ammunition manufacturing company for ammo. As far as charitable organizations, the list is long, but I'm been honored to be invited to participate at volunteering at some of the HAVA events, which is Honored American Veterans of Field, honoredveterans.org, and then the Maine-based organization, the Summit Project, which works with Gold Star families to honor Maine's fallen heroes.
That's
just
fantastic.
When TJ and I didn't feel like we were doing enough with our lives. Good Lord. So, Tatiana, thank you so much for being on with us. Thank you to the folks at CC Radio for doing without you for the last half hour of their show. We look forward to having Baraka actually next week, so that's going to be awesome. Already had Spencer. Folks, if you haven't figured it out by now, we're going to keep trying to bring you some of the best in the business on this podcast, and we're honored to have had you, Tatiana, as one of the better people that I've ever had the pleasure of having this conversation with. Thank you so much for all your insight, and thank you for your time this evening. It was really appreciated.
Well, thank you for having me, and I look forward to seeing the show's success. And if you'd ever like to have me back, all you have to do is reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm going to extend that standing invitation right now, Tatiana. Anytime you want to come on the show, you just let us know. We will make room for you. That is not a problem at all. Kent, as always, it's always been it's been a pleasure doing the show with you as usual. Thank you for tracking down Tatiana and getting her on the show again, Tatiana. It's been absolutely a pleasure to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, all of Tatiana's links and Kent's links and my links are in the description of this show. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, check the description on your respective player to find all the same links there. Subscribe to my channel, Lead Sling and Ginger on YouTube. Subscribe to Kent's channel, Green Mountain Defense. You can also check him out on greenmountaindefense.com. And until we see each other again, God bless you all and get out and shoot.